Hi Mika. I'm just gonna run through the 2021 Term 4 yearly assessment. So it's probably not perfectly aligned with your syllabus, but it's the best I could find. It's actually the only one I could find from your school, so I figured I would just go through it and you can use it to revise next term if it doesn't apply to this one. So starting off with question 1, which of the following lines is parallel to the line y equals negative 2x plus 5? So, just to start off, parallel means if continued, never intersect. Right? So, if you think about it, if you have a line here and a line here, they don't intersect with each other, but if you continue them forever along both sides, well, this end might not intersect, this one does right here, which means that these two lines are not parallel. Even if you have a line that's very, very, very slightly offline, eventually, further down the line, they will intersect. So they aren't parallel. So the only way to ensure that if continued to infinity, these lines never intersect, is to make sure they have the exact same gradient. Because if you have two lines that have the same gradient, obviously they're just running exactly alongside each other. So that means that they will never intersect if continued forever. So another way of defining parallel as such is same gradient. Alright, so with this information, we'll try to find out the gradient of our first line. So y1 equals negative 2x plus 5, and we have our standard form of a line, y equals mx plus b, where m is our gradient. So our coefficient of x right here is our gradient, and therefore our coefficient of x here is our gradient. Therefore m1 equals negative 2. And because of this definition up here, of having the same gradient, we know therefore m1 equals m2, right? So those two link. And then therefore the gradient of our second line must equal negative 2. Now, A, the gradient is 2, C, it's half, D, it's negative half, and so we are left with B as our only answer, where the gradient is negative 2, and therefore it must be B. Now, for question 2, water is being poured at a constant rate into a bottle. Now, in exams, I like to highlight or underline important information, not draw over, sorry. There we go, constant rate. The graph showing the depth of the water in the bottle over time. So, depth of the water in the bottle over time is very important. So it's essentially saying, if you have a measuring, whatever, cylinder or beaker, or in this case, flask, with all these measuring lines on it, this graph is showing how quickly it's rising. So it's not how much water is in it, right? It's how quickly it's rising. So obviously, if you have a constant rate, the thinner the bottle, the faster it's going to rise, okay? And this graph is showing a quick rise, which then slows down, which implies that we have whatever it is, it'll be thicker on top and then thinner on the bottom, because it starts off thin and then it slows down as it gets thicker, right? So looking at all of our options, we have A, which suits what we're trying to do, so we'll just put a dot above it now. B goes thick to thin rather than thin to thick, and therefore it can't be that. C, thick to thin. D, thick to thin, and therefore it must be A, because it's the only one that supports what we're trying to do. Now for question 3, which of the following is the value of the simple interest earned on $850 for 9 months at 8% per annum? So you can use the equation A equals P1 plus RT for simple interest, where P is equivalent to your principal, so your starting money, R is equivalent to your percent, but as a decimal, so 8% equals 0.08, and T, this is 850, and T is equal to time in years, so 9 on 12 years, because it's 9 months out of the 12 possible months in a year, right? So if you sub all that information in, A equals 850 times 1 plus 0.08 times 9 on 12, and if you put that in your calculator, it should equal about $901, right? And it's asking for the value of the interest earned, which means it's not asking for your final value, which this is giving, but the amount it's increased by. So 901, your final value, minus your starting value, equals $51, and therefore the answer is A. Now, question number 4. The diagram shows 3 towns, P, Q, and R. Angle PRQ, so this angle right here, PRQ. So an easier way of remembering this is just the one in the middle is the angle that it's actually talking about, and then it connects to the 2 on the outside, right? So angle PRQ is 46, RQP is 42, so I'm just going to use a different color, and daisies, RPQ is an angle we're looking for. So the bearing from P to Q, so from P going north to Q, so this whole way around, is equivalent to 160 degrees. Okay, what is the bearing of R from P? So of R from P is essentially meaning this arrow being continued there. So another way of talking about it is saying it's this angle here, 160 plus this angle here, angle RPQ, right? So this is the working out we're trying to do up here. And so to do it, we need to understand what angle RPQ actually is. And to work that out, we can use the internal angle of a triangle. So if you have a triangle, the sum of all the angles is 180 degrees. Now we already have 2 of the angles, 46 plus 42 is equivalent to 88. Therefore, RPQ equals 180 minus 88 equals 92 degrees. So this bit here in here is 92 degrees. And then we plug it back up here. Sorry, I know I'm a bit all over the place. We have 160 plus 92. And that is equivalent to 252. 252 degrees. Okay, next question. Oh, sorry. And therefore it's D. Which of the following could describe the graph shown below? So our information here is our x-intercept, our y-intercept, a turning point, and although we don't necessarily have the values of our y and turning point, we do have their placement, so we know they're both in the negative area. And the turning point has both values in the negative area. It's a negative x value and a negative y value. So, starting off, we know that our y-intercept is when you let x equal 0. And if you let x equal 0 for x minus a, x minus b, or x plus a, x plus b, same, it'll equal ab, right? And so if we have any of these numbers here, any of these numbers in their pairings, and we multiply them, we will find our y-intercept. Right? So let's start off with the first one. -4 times -1 equals 4. And that's positive, and therefore it can't be a. Let's go to the second one. 4 times 1 is 4. Positive, can't be b. 4 times -1 equals -4, which is negative, so it can be c. We'll put a dot next to it. And d, -4 times 1 equals -4. It can also be d. So now we've established immediately it's only 2 of the 4 possible options. Right? Now we need to use the rest of our information. So the difference between these two is the intercepts, the x-intercepts. Right? So for this one, x plus 4, x minus 1 equals 0, right, for the x-intercepts, and therefore x plus 4 equals 0, or x minus 1 equals 0. X plus 4 equals 0, x equals -4, x minus 1 equals 0, x equals 1, right? Which is the x-intercept shown in the graph. Therefore, that is the correct answer. So just using the turning point, the y-intercept and the x-intercepts, we can actually immediately work out which one it is, right? So it's C. And we can move on to the next question. Now, which of the following would be used to determine the size of the largest angle? So, for a triangle, the largest angle will always be opposite the largest side. If you think about it, you've got 3 lines, right? And if you have a longer side, these endpoints are going to be stretched farther apart, and therefore this angle here is going to be bigger, right? So for any triangle, that rule works. Therefore for this one, if it's opposite the largest side, it will be this angle right here. And that means we can use cosine rule for the angle. And now, looking at the information given, you plug cosine rule in. I don't actually know the cosine rule for the angle, but I do know for the side. So c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab cos theta. And you just rearrange c squared minus a squared plus minus b squared over -2ab, and a and b are 5 and 7, so we know our denominator is going to be 2 times 5 times 7, right? Because these two numbers here, the ones that are squishing this angle, is a way that I like to remember it. So if this is our denominator here, we can immediately cut out a, cut out c, and cut out d. So we actually get the answer straight off the bat with that, and we get b as our answer.